Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel and more bolt action here as we get to the last of our minor nations reviews. Today we're taking a look at Poland, and this is a really cool one to try out. You got some early war and later war action and abilities in here. But let's take a look at their army special rules first. So we have, first of all, no hope of retreat. So whenever a Polish unit fails a morale check and would otherwise be destroyed as a consequence, take the test again and apply the second result. This result applies to all units facing the situation, including infantry, artillery, and vehicles that suffer an on-fire damage result. So it's pretty cool. You get a reroll there to maybe essentially pass that morale check. But again, if the second one is a fail, well, then it does stand. So you don't get to just infinitely keep trying that. But really cool ability there when it happens, right? Staying in the fight longer. They also have what's called battlefield knowledge, so any Polish unit that's set up on the table before turn 1 may already start in ambush. We've seen that similar things with some of the other minor nation factions here. And if you do that, set one of your other dice in place next to them, as if you had ordered them to ambush before, again, the first order die in turn 1. In addition, in the first turn of the game, all Polish infantry have fieldcraft. Pretty cool to have that. And again, we're not paying points for any of that, which is just nice. It's just there. And then finally, when attempting an outflanking maneuver described in the rulebook, they ignore the -1 modifier to the order test for coming out of the table. So again, we've seen that combination of abilities here with battlefield knowledge on several of the minor nation factions, but nice to have that here as well. So definitely making good use of that. Is a key part to the force here. Now we start off as usual with the infantry in the HQ section. So we have our usual platoon commander here, and we can go inexperienced all the way through veteran if we want the first or second lieutenant, but also we can go higher and get the company commanders, so a captain or major. And again, different points cost for those with veterancy levels. We have the officer and up to the 2 bodyguards as per normal here. So pistol, SMG, or rifle as on the models. We get our medic, of course, a medic and up to 2 men here. They're also unarmed, but you have that as a choice. And then finally for the HQ section, the forward observer. So here we're, again, just getting a forward observer, not a, air observer. Actually, no, we are. My apologies there. The Air Force or artillery forward observer and up to 2 further men. Okay. 75 for regular, 90 for vet. And again, the usual bodyguard options there, and they come with the infiltrator special rule as you would expect. So that rounds out our HQ choices. Now getting into the infantry. So we have our standard infantry section here with 6 men, an NCO and 5, and again, inexperienced up through vet, all with just stock rifles. Now here's the kicker with this, where you can have some fun. You can really bring in some horde style elements into your list. Add up to 13 additional men with rifles. Again, different experience levels if you have that. And actually they're here doing a cap on that. So 13 additional men with rifles as an experienced or at 10 plus for regular. So you can have the very large unit up through a regular skill level. But here, interestingly, then they restrict it. So if you're going veteran in the squad, you can only add up to 4 additional men. So getting to a 10-man squad there. Now, weapon-wise, interesting upgrade here too. 1 man may be given the BAR for 6 points. So adding some much-needed mobility and firepower. But they're not getting the American special rule as far as the bar is concerned. Now, an interesting option with a lot of these minor nation infantry units, they usually come with some sort of special rule or that we can pay to upgrade into. And in their case, we can make these guys all engineers as well. So for 1 extra point, pretty solid value there. We're not paying too much. So all in all, really good unit. We can have several larger units at lower experience levels or a more elite 10-man unit if we want. Definitely adding the BAR will add some much needed firepower. No LMGs in here. So something that's definitely a departure from most other regular infantry units. We then get the Polish motorcycle section here, regular or vet. It's a fair few points here, but we get 6 men on motorcycle sidecars, combination of that. Rifles, and we can again here add 7 additional men with rifles on motorcycles with sidecars for 15 points each regular or 20 points veteran. No other restriction there. So actually quite a few guys there. And again, we have access to the BAR just to add some more firepower. But nice mobile option here, a little pricey. But again, we're going to be able to zip around the battlefield, get into good spots here. Maybe even, if we've already taken out objectives, get these guys on there fast, or just come around and mess with enemies. But also good for hunting down more vulnerable enemy units too. So we have that to start with. Then we get a cavalry section. So an NCO and 5 on horses, regular and vets here. They have the cavalry carbines, which again we've seen a lot in some of these minor factions. 7 men with the cavalry carbines at 13 for regular or 16 for veterans, so we can add quite a few more and have, again, pretty sizable units. So it looks like 13 total there, right? 1 and 5, and then 7 more. And again, BAR for added firepower. Now, interestingly here, very thematic for the early war, right? But the whole unit can have lances for +1 point per man. And we'll see the rules here in a second. The cavalry carbines, we've seen those over and over again. Basically, pistol on horseback or rifle when you dismount. Now, notice can't fire the BAR while you're on the horse. That'd be hilarious, but also busted, just to have that. But nonetheless, you're carrying around your mobile firepower. Now, the lances, should we want to get into close combat, you gain 1 extra attack in close quarters against infantry and artillery units, but you may not fire the carbines while mounted, so because you're occupied with holding the lance. Now, once you do decide to discount, so if you've dismounted before you've really gotten a chance for combat, the lances are gone for the rest of the battle. So ideally, we try to deliver these guys as close as possible to an enemy unit, get a solid charge off, cause all kinds of damage, hopefully survive the combat, and then maybe afterwards we dismount. But really cool flexibility there in what the unit can do. So if we're playing more early war, although it doesn't really make the distinction in here, but that is a really cool ability to have that and be really quite frightening in combat. And then we round out with our specialist teams here. So we get the usual MG team here. It's a medium machine gun, typical points cost and experience through vets on these. A marksman. Interesting that we're not just calling it a sniper team, but, well, actually in this one, yeah, so it's actually just the 1 marksman, so there's no spotter with them. So just sniper infiltrator with a rifle, regular and vet. So neat idea there, and again, a little bit of a difference between what more or less every other nation does. The AT rifle team, as we'd expect as well. This is a two-man team and experience through vet. Fairly cheap, gives us a little bit of punch against some light vehicles. The mortar team, we can start as a light mortar. Realistically, probably don't want to spend the points on the light mortar. Not generally all that effective. So we're going to pay 15 points and upgrade into a medium mortar, get the extra man and fixed. And then we can pay the points for a spotter as well. But medium is going to give us a nice, solid bit of indirect firepower there. So, and still fairly cheap, even with the upgrade. Now, where they're going to have more firepower here is in the artillery section. We start with a light howitzer again, inexperienced through vet if we want that, but we can pay the extra points for a medium howitzer, and then we're starting to talk about some more serious firepower. Or we do actually have the option of fielding a heavy and getting another 2 extra men on that. For 90 points, we can have gun shield, we can have the spotter. So realistically, unless you specifically wanted to, again, I don't think staying with the light howitzer is really going to be all that effective game-wise, unless you just want something dirt cheap, right? 45 points for a light regular one is a steal, really. But once we start getting into the medium and heavy, that's where we can start delivering some of the serious damage and kind of making up for some of the other things that the list tends to lack. So, well worth considering. AT guns, they can just field a light one here, no upgrade into any mediums or anything. But again, also fairly cheap, but key positioning there, right? We're probably going to struggle to do damage to anything, any serious threats to the front, but if maybe we can get some side shots. But we'll do plenty of work against very light vehicles. The anti-air option here, typical stuff, pintle-mounted light autocannon with a 360-degree arc of fire. 3 men here, and again, all the veterancy options are there. Now we could upgrade to a heavy Bofors, basically, and add an extra crew for only 15 more points, which seems like a good deal. We're not like a medium autocannon. We're just going straight to heavy autocannon. A 40 mil Bofors, we get flak, and again, only 15 points to do that. So really, we could take a regular one, pay the 15 points, 50 points for a heavy autocannon. Seems like a good deal. And getting that crucial 4th crewman as well. So something to consider there. Then we're on to vehicles, and here we get a variety of choices, let's say. Some kind of goofy, but it is, again, more geared towards what was there in the early war. So we start off with tankettes and light tanks. Here we can go inexperienced through vet. And on this we have a hull-mounted medium machine gun. That's the TKS tankette. So mobile machine gun, nothing to laugh at. Still very useful for what it is. Counts as an armored car. We have all kinds of different upgrades that we can go. We can replace the Hull MMG with a hull-mounted light autocannon for another 20 points. So we're definitely, obviously, getting a more serious points investment on that, but a mobile light autocannon could be pretty cool. We could also replace the MMG with a turret-mounted light AT gun and coax medium machine gun, replacing the Recce rule. Oh, it does come with Recce in its standard configuration, so that's cool. But we replace that with vulnerable for plus 25 points, which is the Vickers Type E light tank. And again, it's it's getting us a true tank, I guess, or tankette rather in that sense. But a mobile light AT gun, which will help us better than maybe just the weapon team. The Vickers Type E may then, there's a lot of upgrades here, may then replace the single turret with 2 medium machine gun turrets for 35 points. Or is that, let's see here. Well, it's got a dash there, so we're going to say actually, just make sure that's not like dirt or anything. So maybe that's a 35-point discount. That could be interesting too, just to have a mobile machine gun battery essentially here to hose down enemy infantry with and support your other troops. So that could be cool. Vulnerable, we've seen that. So basically, because it's riveted, all shots to the side and rear get another +1 to pen. But yeah, so base configuration, we get Recce. We start getting into the upgrades, we lose that, but get some actual types of firepower with that too. So interesting choices though. We go on to the Renault FT. Again, really cheap on this. Armored carrier, basically a turret-mounted medium machine gun. We could replace it with a low-velocity light AT gun for 30 points, which basically, doubling the cost of the base configuration there with the regular one. So still overall very cheap, but again, several downsides. And if this is just purely thinking like competitively, but again, a lot of times you'll probably want to play it for fun and some fluff reasons. So that could still be cool to field these and have those available. But one-man turret is obviously always going to be a little bit rough to deal with and slow, pitifully slow. Basically, it's not going anywhere fast with that. So you have that, but then also the low velocity gun. So you only have a +3 pen instead of the usual +4. So getting in some flank and rear shots will be almost mandated, but that's going to be harder because you're super slow and you have a 7-up armor as well. Another Renault offering here, the R35. This one's actually a little bit better. We're paying way more points than all the above here, but we have the turret-mounted low-velocity gun and a coax MMG, so more or less, a complete tank package here, albeit not very good. 8-up for light tank armor, a true light tank here versus the armored stuff above. So that'll help a little bit, but again, one-man turret, slow. It is armored all around though, so that's actually pretty helpful. And then again, the low velocity gun, but at least we're able to ideally get into some positions here to where we can hopefully get some better shots. But again, slow is going to make it a little bit tough to achieve that. So positioning, using the terrain, the map to your advantage, and hopefully forcing the enemy to make some choices to where they'll hopefully give you like a side shot or something like that you can do some damage with. Then also the Hotchkiss H35, very similar, almost too similar, but turret-mounted low-velocity gun and coax MMG 8+ here. It's a low-velocity gun again. We've seen that, and it's a one-man turret. Where we're basically getting something better out of this is the fact that so we have one-man turret and low velocity. It's not slow though, and given all the other things that we've seen that are slow so far, just the fact that we have a normal speed true light tank in the list is actually super useful. It does not have the armored all around, but we'll take that. We'll sacrifice armor for speed here, basically. Then the 7TP. Now this is a turret-mounted light AT gun, noticeably not low velocity, so that's actually useful. With the coax MMG, very similar points to above here, though a little bit more expensive in each of the Veterancies. Light tank again. We could replace the single turret with 2 medium machine gun turrets if we wanted to for a hefty discount. It's again just another variant of what we saw above with a little bit more armor. But again, getting some more machine guns in the list is going to be useful, given that the infantry squads really just get the BAR, which is not a bad upgrade, but also only 1 per squad from above. It is considered vulnerable, though, because of the rivets again, so very fragile, but another potential option here if we'd leave it with the turret-mounted light AT gun, and it's actually not a slow or low-velocity gun. So a lot of little choices here to kind of eke out what advantages we can possibly get. Last section here, we have the armored cars and recce vehicles. So here 56 to 84 is point spread. It's a turret-mounted medium machine gun. That's the WZ-34. It counts as an armored car. We can replace that with 1 turret-mounted low-velocity gun, 1 turret-mounted rear-facing medium machine gun, and 1 hull-mounted rear-facing medium machine gun. And the too many jobs special rule for 30 points. So very goofy vehicle, but the fact that we just get all these guns all over the place is kind of cool too. At least can save us maybe from enemies sneaking up, I guess, which was like I think the plan, at least with the real design on those. Now we could replace the wheeled WZ-34 with a half-tracked WZ-28 for free, so that's pretty cool. Changes the movement type and everything, right? And then replace the turret-mounted medium machine gun on either version here, the 34 or the 28, with a low-velocity AT gun for another 30 points. So some interesting choices there. We can basically get 2 different ways that we can acquire the low-velocity gun. One in kind of a goofy option, the other with essentially just that, and seemingly then, yeah, we're losing the machine gun for it. We do get recce seemingly on all versions, so that's something to consider. We know what the low velocity gun is because we've seen it so many times. But on the one variant here, too many jobs, which is useful to know because there are some vehicles that have that. But basically combining the roles of commander gunner for 2 different weapons and loader together means it's hard to do different things at once. So to represent this, it's always necessary to make an order test when issuing an advance order, even if the tank is not pinned. So factor that in if you're going to run this. In addition, the vehicle may fire either the main gun or the turret-mounted machine gun in the same turn, but not both, right? There's just not enough crew available to do all the guns, basically. Finally, here, transports and tows, the usual. So we got a half-track truck, can carry up to 6 men, so we could maybe run some smaller infantry squads. Can tow the different light howitzer stuff, basically, that we have available, the flak gun, all that. We could add a pintle-mounted medium machine gun for 20 points, which seems awfully steep. And we lose all the transport capacity, but it does count. It counts as an armored car choice there. And convert to extended troop carrier to increase transport capacity to 12 or 7. So a couple different ways we can do that. I don't imagine we get to do both, right? Because it says we're losing all transport capacity, but then we could convert to extended troop carrier to increase troop capacity. So I feel like with the way it's written, unless somebody knows for sure, we can basically double the troop capacity to 12 for 7 points, or we can go with the machine gun option. Doesn't seem like we'd be able to do both, but maybe we can. Maybe I'm wrong. But interesting options there. So we do have a little bit of mechanized option in the list. We have the, not even going to pronounce that correctly, of the Pzins 302 field car. Dirt cheap, as you can see. It's a soft skin, but can actually transport 6 men, so keep that in mind. Right, again, we can add mobility to this force, which is one of its strengths, surprisingly, with this sort of like light mechanized option here. And it can still actually tow a light howitzer, light or medium anti-tank gun. And here we could again add a pintle-mounted medium machine gun, and we lose all the transport capacity for basically doubling the cost of it. Now that could be still pretty cool, though. Those are still dirt cheap, almost like a kind of like a upgunned US Jeep here with, again, the medium machine gun. Good for hunting down other enemy like weapon teams and stuff like that. So that could still be pretty useful. Neat option. And then finally, the C4P half-track tractor, ridiculously cheap. It's a soft skin, and basically it's just there to tow stuff. It literally does nothing else. So there you have the polls, guys. Very interesting faction to wrap up the minor nations here. Lacking compared to some of the other ones, right? And again, given the historical reality of this, again, definitely feels like it's more geared toward like early war Poland, not necessarily like any like Polish forces that fought later in the war. With this particular list, but still some interesting options. And if we're kind of trying to have like a true matchup and having your opponent also play more of an early war focused list, they can still cause some problems. The usual culprits, though, right? We're going to struggle to pen, bigger tanks, heavier tanks, and stuff like that. But we have pretty good infantry. We can bring in some of the heavy hitting that we don't get via our actual vehicles with, quality artillery work, right? We got plenty of mortars that we can field. Go with a medium or heavy howitzer, and if we can connect with that a couple times, that should help stem the tide there. But a lot of interesting mobility in the list and different ways we can get it, and really, I think in like a positioning battle, we should be able to win that quite a bit versus the enemy, and just get them into bad positions, and above all, always playing the mission versus just worrying about killing the opponent, right? So that is the Polish. Let us know if you fielded a Polish force with 3.0 here and how your thoughts are on that. Hit us up in the comments, like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.